Hi there, crafty friends. Welcome and thank you for joining me. Today, I thought we would make a card using Birdie Friends in Winter Stencil and Die set. We are going to be doing more of a traditional looking card. So first we need to get out our die, and I found this was the easiest way. I'm just going to die cut my birdies on here. I've got my waffle flower sticky mat, and I just want to carefully peel those birdies off. I want to leave them in the paper, and then I'm just going to take the die off. Well, if they happen to pop out, I'm just going to stick them back into that paper, and I just want to make sure they are stuck down to that sticky mat. Then we can bring in our stencils, and this is a two-piece stencil set, but it is broken up into sections, and they give you little hints, like use a light color on these pieces, a medium color there, another medium color down on the wings. But we're going to kind of just wing it and do whatever we feel like here. So let's get this lined up, and that does line up pretty well. We can just stick that down. I will be using candy apple, and I will have all of my ink choices listed and linked in the description below. I'm going to go heavier on the little hats, and I do like to kind of hold down my stencil just so that ink doesn't get where I don't want it. And then I will be doing my birdies, and I'm going to kind of come in from one side and make the one side just a little bit darker than the other. So my right side, I will concentrate more ink on than the left. I've got those pretty well covered. Now I am just going to come in and quickly give that a little white. And I want to make sure that those little birdies really appear dark. So now I'm going to come in with a little bit of licorice, not too much, and I'm going to go on the right hand side and just kind of darken that red a little bit. We don't need a lot. A little bit goes a long ways, and just to darken that. So now we can already move on to part number 2 of this stencil. And this next part are some more body parts of our birdies. I think that's good, but I want to leave the trim on this guy's hat white, so I'm going to mask that off just in case. So I've got 2 red birds, and this little birdie over here, I am going to do green. I will also mask that off, and we're going to come in with some olive first. And I'm going to hold that down. I'm going pretty even coverage. And then I am going to come in with some evergreen. And my evergreen, I am going to concentrate again on the right hand side. I want his little tummy to stay pretty light. So that's it there for that little bird. Then we can swap that mask over and come back in with our candy apple. Just repeating that process. Then after I give that stencil a little wipe, I can come back in with some licorice. And that will just add a little bit of highlight, just like that. Then we can move on to the third section of our little birds. We've got the tails and some wings. And I will just repeat the process. I want to make sure that I cover that guy's tail feathers. My 2 birds here will be green. I'm going to repeat the process. Come in first with my olive and then my evergreen on that right hand side. And actually this birdie over here, he's going to be solid evergreen. I'll give that a little wipe and then replace my masking tape. Now we can move on to candy apple. I hope everybody is doing well. It's been pretty nice here. We're definitely getting fall weather, but it has not been too bad. Really nice. Then we'll come in with some licorice. And that stencil is done. These little birdies are so cute. And then we've got stencil number 2. The first section is our little beaks. And I will be using a little bit of peach fuzz and persimmon. I'm coming in first with peach fuzz and just covering the whole area, and then a little bit of persimmon. And I'm just going to lightly darken the beak at the base. And then I will be skipping the second section of our little birdies because that is their eyes. And I did do one using it with the eyes and I didn't care for it. It was just way too wide. So we will be coming in with a gel pen for that. So now we can line up the third section. So on my third section here, we've got our green birdie. We've got the trim on the hat and the scarves. I want to make sure that I mask off that hat. And then our scarves, we are going to do green. So we are going to come back in with our olive and we can do our little birdie. I want his body to be a little bit lighter. So we're just going to go around the outside and try not to hit too much of that green on his beak. And then I'll just come in and do the scarves, kind of light, not too dark. I think that looks pretty good. And our little birdies are pretty much done. All we need to do is add a little bit of black gel pen and fill in their eyes. So for that, I am just going to leave them in their little holder here and just trace those cut marks with my black gel pen. And those are so cute. So now we can pop these out of here. And for our branches that come with the die set, you get this branch die. And all I did was just cut 2 pieces from, I believe it's fern cardstock from Spellbinders. And I just want to add a little bit of shading to these. And I'm going to bring in a little bit of espresso. And I am just going to give a little bit of shading just in different areas. And we may not even see it because we will be adding some texture paste here, but I just want a little bit of interest. So now I have some distressed texture paste in opaque, and we need to bring back in that second stencil, and you can actually ink blend that branch or you can cut it out like we did. I thought it was just easier to die cut it. So now let's just line up this first branch and add a little bit of texture paste for snow. And we don't need a whole lot because these are little tiny areas. So we're just going to fill that in. I think I need a smaller palette knife. This one seems a little awkward on these little tiny areas here. And it doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. I want a little bit of character texture to it. We can lift that one up. We can set this aside and bring in our other and add a little paste to that one. And you can see where it lines up. It lines up pretty easily. And then as soon as you are done with that, you want to pull that up and run to the sink with it real quick. So now we can assemble our card. I've got my card base. And then for my background, I am using the crosshatch texture die. And I love this. I thought that was the perfect holiday impression there. And then I've also got some leaves here, some branches. I've got some pine branches, and I cut a whole bunch of these out of a green cardstock I had in my stash. I don't think that's available any longer, but I will have everything else listed. And I got this branch from Spellbinders Christmas Cocktails. And then I've also cut out a few garland out of gold foil, matte gold foil. This die came with the set. And let's just figure out how we want our scene set. And I have an idea. I am just going to bring in one branch down here. I know I will have another up here. And I've got to figure out where I want them, how much space I want between them. I know I'm going to have 3 little birdies down here, 1 little birdie up here, and then I am going to figure out how I want my pine branches placed, and I'm just going to kind of give those a little fluff. I think that's looking pretty good. So let's figure out where we want our garland. So let's go ahead, get our birdies out of here. We know where we want our branches, so let's add our first garland. And I will add a little bit of glue to the back of that. Then we can add our other garland, and I think I might need to cut a piece of this one off. It might be just a little bit too big. So we know where we want our branches. I'm going to put some foam strips behind those. And when I put my branches down, I'm not going to stick them down all the way because I still want to put my pine needles in there. So we'll just put a little bit of glue on there and gently tuck those where we want them. And you can leave these as long or as short as you want. Make sure that is stuck down well. Then we can do the same with our branch over here. And then we can trim off our branches that we don't need. Just flip that over and trim those off. So I've got foam tape behind all my little birdies. We will get those added. This card was so easy. I love that the birds were so easy to color with that stencil. And you can mask and you can make each of your birds all a different color if you wanted to. I was just trying to keep it simple. Now we can go ahead and add our branches to the corner. And it's okay if your pine branches hang off just a little bit because I did cut my panel, my dry embossed panel, to 4 by 5 1/4. And that is coming along so cute. I'm going to add some foam tape behind this and get it added to my card base. Just get that centered. Then all we need is our sentiment and some embellishments. For my sentiment, I am using the Merry sentiment strips, and these are so convenient. Oh my goodness. And I just pulled the Merry Christmas out of there. I will add some foam tape behind that. And I do trim my sentiment just a little bit from how it came, just because I prefer it a little thinner. I added some matte gold pearls to my project here, and that came out so cute. I love the texture paste on the branch for snow, and these little birds are adorable. Please be sure to leave me a comment, give me a thumbs up. Thank you so much for spending time with me, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.